Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. Today, I don't even have my clock and calendar up. It's like I don't have to do some work to do this. This is the June 6th edition, 2014, and today's special guest, I'm your host, William Hayashi, writer and screenwriter, and today's special guest is Naseed Gifted, and he is an educator and as far as I'm concerned, a very talented comic creator, and which is a double threat, and I'm sure there's probably more things on your resume than that. So welcome to the show. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, seriously. I mean, I get to meet so many cool people, and the nice part about it is I don't have to leave the house. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, that's great.
Yeah. And you're as you mentioned before, you're in what, New Jersey now? Whereabouts in New Jersey?
Well, I'm born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I actually reside in Union, New Jersey right now.
And where's that near? I mean, I don't know it that well. I mean, if it's not near one of the go ahead.
Union is about 5 minutes outside of Newark. Newark is 15 minutes outside of New York City.
Okay. Cool. And how's your weather today?
You said how's the weather?
Yeah.
Oh, the weather was beautiful today. We had you could see summer is right around the corner.
It had that feel to it?
Yeah, I mean, besides, doing the comic creation, as you said earlier, I'm in education. So we have what we call a Men's Day, and pretty much we combine two schools.
Okay.
And we had a series of workshops and things of that sort for them. And then we had some outside activities at the end. So I was outside pretty much all day at the end of the day today.
Nice, man. See, that's the kind of job to have during nice weather. During bad weather, not so nice. So, yeah, let's do this. You said we can go earlier in your career. Let's talk about when you were growing up. One of the things that I'm always interested in is when. About how old were you when you kind of got into like the creative arts that you're into now, and what kind of things happened to kind of push you in that direction? I mean, a lot of us obviously start out coloring in school and things like that. Mm-hmm. You're an artist. You're a comic creator. Did that sort of thing kind of pop up early when you were coming up, or did you pick that up later?
I would say it came on later, but it was one of the gifts that I had from early on, and it pretty much springboarded off of my childhood experiences. I come from a generation where we grew up with Saturday morning cartoons and watched martial arts flicks. Pretty much every Saturday morning you had the Saturday lineup, and that was pretty much my my experiences, and then, of course, from there, read comic books and things of that sort. So I always had the seed there, but didn't actually work on it until later on, once I actually had children. That kind of like springboarded and cultivated that whole, seedling thing that I had, until creating some of the graphic novel series that I have.
And so, I mean, I also started out with cartoons, but ours were a lot more silly, and they weren't like hero-oriented or anything like that. I grew up with stuff like Beanie and Cecil, Heckle and Jekyll, and Yogi the Bear. But, I mean, so when you were actually watching the comics, you were picking up the urge to create at that age.
Well, yes, because I mean, like, as you look at now, from the 80s to now, they're pretty much like recycling a lot of the stuff. that I watched as a kid. So now when I talk to my kid, he talks to me about Transformers or Ninja Turtles, and I was telling him, like, when I was a kid, I used to watch that, so I knew about the stuff, and it's just funny to me how everything just kept, they just kept recycling this stuff. And creativity-wise, I just wanted to add a new flavor onto what's already out there. And I mean, that caused me to do a lot of research. And just the backstory of how I actually really got into comics was I took my son to see the Incredible Hulk movie a few years back. Probably it was like 2003, 2004. No, I'm sorry, it's probably about 2006. And pretty much when we had a little discussion about the movie, he pretty much, and I was asking him about, his heroes. And when we had the conversation about, the type of heroes that he was, I'm looking for him to say Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, some of the other people that, we kind of discussed at home, but none of those heroes came out of his mouth. And then I started being reflective because, the educator in me always want to reflect on, like what's his experiences and things of that sort. So then I said, it's not enough heroes or characters out there for him to even look at. And if it is, then, they have a negative light on them sometimes. Those are the heroes of color. They usually come from a very dark past and things of that sort. So that kind of springboarded what I was doing, or at least what I was thinking about, and cultivated it into, me doing some research, kind of, taking these stories that I had in my head and just putting stuff on paper. And that was pretty much how the whole PB Soldier graphic novel series kind of came to life.
And for those of you who are listening, you can check out his website at www.pbsoldier, all one word, .com. And so, I mean, it sounds like you came to this, to actually, getting to the PB Soldier part kind of late. I mean, you already had kids. It wasn't something that you kind of brought with you from your teens, or at least not exactly that incarnation.
Yes.
And you jumped into it quick, man. I mean, when you look at the kind of exposure you got already, that you're doing well to excite an audience. You know what I mean? You've got an audience that's relating to you.
Yes. Well, part of it was, even though, like we launched the first episode of PB Soldier in 2012, I was writing and researching and taking courses and things of that sort from like 2005 on. So I took some courses over at NYU. I did some storyboarding classes. I went to the New York Comic Con religiously. I did ECBOC, religiously. I did all of those things to just kind of make sure that whatever product that we were looking to develop, that it would be able to be competitive with your Marvels and your DCs and things of that sort. And then all of the courses that I did and everything kind of just helped me improve in the writing style and stuff. So I mean that's pretty much what it is. And just to give you a little more of my background, coming from I come from an engineering background, who transitioned into education. So high school I did robotics, and that was my thing. And if you would ask me 15 years ago what I was going to do, I would have told you I was going to be an engineer. I never even thought of doing anything like this. And that's pretty much what I pursued. And when I went into college, I pursued engineering. And then after I did the engineering, I graduated. I got my first engineering job after I had my internship, and pretty much wasn't satisfied with the rewards for the education. And And along with that, I actually had a business, me and a couple of partners of ours, which was PB Soldier. And PB Soldier was pretty much a T-shirt and clothing line. And we kind of used it wasn't a character at that time. It was just pretty much a face. And the face of that was, like our logo. And from there, we kind of developed what we called official conscious wear, which was clothing with a message at that time. And that kind of, allowed us to, tap into a market, run, just pretty much venture into what it is to be an entrepreneur and things of that sort. And then after college, we pretty much did the PB Soldier thing, which was a part of the company. The company was called PBS Unlimited, which was Proud Brothers and Sisters Unlimited. We pretty much, everyone pretty much got their, career jobs and stuff and weren't as hungry anymore and, started having families and things of that. It kind of like died out. And what I did was kind of like kept the mantle going when, like I said, I took the experiences I had with my kids and kind of took that logo and shaped it into a character and built a story behind that.
Yeah, but see, the cool thing is that you did that not so many people do, is you actually went to school to get schooled on the fundamentals of what you were going to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just start out and do it, and personally, I think that makes their learning curve a lot higher because, if you're constantly having to go through trial and error, and man, you and I both know how much error there is in trial and error, especially you being an engineer.
Yes.
It doubles the amount of time it takes you to learn something.
Yes. Time is money. That's what they always say. And I knew that, all right, if I wanted to do this, I needed to know enough to be able to manage the individuals who was going to be a part of the business, if there was going to be the artists, writers, or anything. So I needed to know that information to be able to do that, just from a business standpoint, because, I need to know the ins and outs of the business in order to be able to develop a company that would be, an entertainment studio. And that's pretty much what we're looking to do, is develop this entertainment studio that's going to gravitate into, animation eventually with the whole graphic novel series.
That's very cool. And so you definitely have studied up on the business of doing business. And from that, you're actually going to, it sounds very much like you have structured already the kind of growth that you want to manage for your business and where you want to be at certain times. Do you have kind of like a timeline of your business? And you don't have to tell it right now, but I'm just saying, have you planned out to that extent? Okay, we have to do X, Y, and Z, and then the next step is we circle back around to A, B, and C. It sounds very much like you're that organized.
Yes. Well, pretty much I laid out a business plan. I developed a business plan for the whole company, and the company name is PBS Media, which is Focus Black Star Media. And that's pretty much the housing agent of the PB Soldier graphic novel series. So what we did from there, was pretty much lay out what you were just saying, a timeline of things. But, of course with that, you need to be able to build a brand. And that's pretty much what I've been trying to do for these last couple of years, is still trying to build the brand and, and get it and develop the fan base so we can move into the next phase of what we're trying to do. It's taken a little longer than I anticipated in my plan, but, still working towards it accordingly.
Well, I'll let you in on a secret. It always takes longer than you plan.
Yes.
And seriously, unless you're lucky enough to, and of course the grease that makes a business go is having access to enough capital in order to get things done the way they need to be done. Yes. And, of course, to pay your bills and, of course, to pay your people.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons that every black business fails, or not every black business, but every black business that does fail, from what I've seen as both a consultant and well, from what I do, is they start out undercapitalized. And if you go into it and you can't pay your bills, you're just not going to make it. No amount of skimping is going to make it. And so one of the things that I do is when I write a business plan for somebody, I put in there that they have to have the capitalization before they even start the business to run the business with no income for at least a year.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that's crazy, but I'm sure you know that that's exactly the way it is, because development costs money.
Yes, and I mean, I know you from your book writing to me, where I'm looking at selling comics as our main stream of income.
Right.
From a business standpoint, there's really not a lot of money in the comic, so you're already operating at a loss. Just from production of the artwork up until production of the book, you're operating at a loss. So, but I mean, of course, the main thing that you do have is the intellectual property that the company owns. So, when it does catch fire, and sometimes it may be 5 years, maybe even 10 years later, you still own those rights. And those are the things that you look to hold on to, and then still try to, still build your brand, keep marketing, and develop, more stories and move within your timeline and whatever business goals that you have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things you have to fight. You have to fight frustration. You have to fight, I mean, if you have a team, sometimes not all the members of the team understand the business of doing business as well as you do. I mean, it's a constant juggle, and sometimes it can be a constant struggle, to keep people together and on the same page. But as far as you are now, I mean, when you look at the comic, when you look at the characters, when you look at the intellectual property that you have, are you seeing that it has the kind of longevity that kind of suggests to you, if we hang on long enough, it's going to happen?
Well, yes, and that's pretty much why I'm always constantly looking to build the brand. I look at this, and I did one simple thing. I added what we call an emblem. Well, actually, the rating. I added the teen rating onto the comic book, right? And what happened with that pretty much stimulated a conversation with the kids that this was going to be developed into a game. Now, I was just pretty much foreshadowing that, a game would eventually come with this book. But the kids were like, wow, I can't wait till the game come out, because I actually added the teen rating onto the book. So a lot of individuals, just look forward to that. And, now they're like, wow, I can't wait till the game. So, like I'm investigating as far as when is this game is going to get developed, of course, things like that. I see one person is asking, Kid Galactus, asked me, do I draw, write, or color the comic?
Right.
Actually, I am the writer and creator of the comic. I work with an individual, Abel Garcia, who's out of Barcelona, Spain, who actually draws the illustrations of the comic. But as far as the characters and everything, I developed all of those along with an individual. I have to give him, a shout-out because he does a lot of art within the comic book industry as far as black people are concerned, and that's Mashindu. He actually developed or shaped my characters, and then for my characters, I pretty much, once I gave them the character profile, he took that and gave the characters the look that they have, and then Abel was able to take that and formalize that into the actual illustrations that you would see on the website or in the books or whatever you may see, that comes out of yes media.
So you're not necessarily an artist, but it sounds like you have a very successful collaborative process that you managed to pull off.
Yes, I am the writer and creator of this whole thing that you see on pbsoldier.com. So that's my brainchild. That's from every look that you see up there, that was something that I wrote down. And when I couldn't draw it, I took pictures of it, and and pretty much tried to shape what the things will look like.
So it truly is a representation of your original concept.
Mhm.
I'm looking at it now. It's very impressive graphics. I put your face up there twice.
I actually had an audition for that piece. I had a real live audition. I had an audition where I gave artists a piece of my script. Well, actually, let me take it back. I gave them a piece of my short story, because originally when I was writing the PB Soldier books, I wrote it as short stories, and then took those short stories and then formed it into script form, for artists to be able to do the panels.
Right. Okay. So now you're at the point now where you've got your concept, and you have excuse me, you have in the novel you've already got the characters, you've got the look, you've got the feel, and everything. In terms of storylines, what's your creative process for writing the stories?
Well, the creative process of writing the story goes back to one simple premise. Everything was constructed behind the original premise of the story. And what would the world be like if everyone was considered a terrorist? And that's pretty much where I stimulate everything from. So PB Soldier, who has to interact with this environment, is being treated as if he was a terrorist, and actually he's one of the top terror threats in this world, where the establishment is the ruling power. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I should even go into the whole spiel of what the story is about for those who are listening. PB Soldier is pretty much set in the year 2020, and everything pretty much started where in 2001, where we had the Patriot Act, and on the year anniversary of the Patriot Act, the U.S., the UK, and China formed the alliance, which is better known as the Establishment, and they developed a campaign to stop out terrorism worldwide. And this later was called the Terrorist Act of 2011. And what happened with that is the main character, the protagonist, PB Soldier, is labeled one of the top terror threats within this new world environment. And for him to get off of this list, he has to enlist in what we call a program, where he has to help spread the sphere of influence around the world of this establishment. So he's actually an assassin. But the takeaway from this is that PB Soldier, as he goes on these missions, he actually has these visions of a life that he never led, which ends up being his ancestors. And they are going through the same trials and tribulations that he goes through during their time period, while he's going through it in the present. And of course,
so it's a dual track story.
Yes. So
in terms of time,
course,
okay.
As he sees these visions, he's not understanding what's going on and why he's seeing this stuff, and not really able to connect or relate, because he's actually hearing voices in his head, and he kind of thinks that he's crazy. So, and that's pretty much where the story starts from.
Man, I mean, that's dense. it's dense enough that you've got a lot of places you can go in that creative universe, and you know, with well created characters,
Mhm.
you could have some pretty broad storylines. I mean, and especially with the flipping back and forth. So it sounds like creatively, you've put together something, you know, a pretty solid basis for managing your universe.
Yes.
And so, you know, I can't tell from here, and I don't know. Do you have, you know, this? Oh, is episode 1 the only one out right now?
No, actually, we have 3 episodes out right now.
Cool.
We have 2 prequels because after I got some reviews from some other individuals, you know, comic review sites and stuff, I wanted to give a little of the backstory, but not the complete backstory. So we developed 2 prequels, which is episode 0.9, which is Jason, which kind of ties right. It's like what happened right before episode 1, and then we have episode 0.01, which is Terrorist Act of 2011. The only thing that happened with the Terrorist Act of 2011, which kept me from pushing the concept as much, is when I developed it, I had it produced and everything, and right when we were going to launch it, because it was written well before the Boston Marathon happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bombing at the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
And a lot of the sequences in that you'll see kind of, it almost mimics what happened there, but this was actually out prior to it. You know, so I know a lot of people were very sensitive to that and everything. So, you know, it didn't get the airplay that I wanted it to get because I didn't push it like that. Because of that incident.
Oh, sure. No. I mean, you know, let's be honest. People will say, authors will claim that, you know, writers will say, well, I don't write for anybody else, or I don't worry about reality when I write. I write what's in my head. But you know what? If you can't take into account how people are going to take your writing, and take into account what makes it most effective, you know, like tying it a little bit to reality or getting completely away from reality so no one makes the inevitable comparisons and stuff like that. I mean, we all have to write and be sensitive to the right things.
Yes.
I'll tell you a quick thing that happened with me in when I was writing my first book. Excuse me. I wrote it from February to November of 2001, and in my book, I had something that happened in Iraq, and then George W. lied us into going to war there, and I was mad I was very upset because he had, you know, because the realities that were going on forced me to have to change the plot of the book for, like what you said, for the same reason, you know, for not only sensitivity, but so that, you know, some bad comparisons, and I don't mean bad like, oh, I did a bad thing, but bad like, well, if they read this, they're going to naturally think of that, and that's not where we're going. Those kind of comparisons are being made. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think you did anything wrong doing what you did, because it's natural to do it, and also it makes for a much, much more effective product if you're cognizant of that kind of detail.
Yes. So, you know, just adding on to what you were saying, we do have 3 episodes out, and what I wanted to do is really change how people read comics. I want people to be able to interact with the comic, because that was the whole purpose of doing the prequels as just a digital form. And you have you know, some companies out there who are, you know, doing things with comics that just kind of change the reading experience, especially since it's online, to where it's not just, you know, reading flat pages of, you know, of panels.
Right.
I want the readers to be able to interact with the panels and stuff. So that's actually coming down the line where we're going to be doing more of the motion comic version of it. of some of the stories, but that's just a little bit down the pipeline. I'm still trying to work that out with an artist or something to make that happen.
Well,
but
doesn't
I
that
just
give you a natural? Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask, doesn't that give you a natural tie-in to a video game?
Yes, and that's pretty much going with those same platforms. I mean, I use when I introduce anyone to the whole storyline and everything, I show it to them on my iPad, and then they could kind of interact with it, versus just having a comic book in my bag or anything like that. And they'd be like, oh wow, this is nice, because even as an iBook, I'm able to add various artists on it. You can go to the website. You can do a whole lot more with the actual digital version of the book than having it as a printed copy. But of course, we're still going to be doing printed copies, just because that's just the culture of people who read comics anyway.
So it's more than a motion comic. It's more than just adding a little bit of motion and stuff like that. You actually have interactive portions of it where people can affect the story, or they change.
Well, that's not there yet. That's what I want to move to. But what you can do, you can interact with it. You can change. You can change the page count. I mean, you could do a lot of other little things. And then, like I said, I have music artists that I'm aligned to that will be playing in the background. That you'll be hearing that as you're reading the story and stuff. Because one of the things, and I just wanted to jump on what Kid Galactus was asking, as far as the script writing process, when I write a story, generally, and let me just lay it out, and this is how pretty much, from research, how the comic book industry pretty much does this. They have a storyline that they lay out for a whole year. So what I did was I pretty much laid out my storyline for about 53 episodes. So if you came to me, and I did this on purpose because I know I have a intense full-time job as a vice principal, and I didn't know what kind of traction I would get with this. So if someone said today, oh, we want you to, we're going to give you this amount of money to do PB Soldier, and we want to invest in you, what can you do? Now I don't have to start writing from scratch or whatever, because I have an outline for every story that I, wanted to have up until about 53 episodes. So
that's great. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So for me, that's like, and I do an episode because I always think animation, I think of a season. So every 13 episodes is a season for me. So, so I have, 5 seasons worth of work. And I actually have an extended version, where we, goes really deep into the future with the storyline and stuff too, which would be PB Soldier Unlimited. So I have all of that laid out. And then once I did that, I kind of broke down each episode into, an overview of what that episode is going to be about. And then I mean, I don't know if you do this, William, but when I started writing, I write to music for some reason. And when
all the time, man, all the time.
It kind of helps the story just formalize. And the writing of a script or a story is such a process, and that's like one of the parts that, like when I even do some of the workshops that I want to tell the kids that, script writing is, just writing the script is a process. It's just like writing a screenplay. You have to do camera angles, you have to do all of those things because you're really directing what the action is going to look like.
Well, and even writing a novel, I try to write with a very highly visual style so that as people are reading it, they are seeing it in their mind's eye at the same time, and it makes it for a more effective read, and it makes it easier for people to read too.
Yes, exactly. So I mean that's definitely a part of the process that I'm looking at, and it's never done on the first try. It's always a rewrite, and a rewrite. This was the part of my engineering background, kind of, is my hindrance, because I could sit there and keep rewriting, and not think it was, worthy of exposure. And I did that at least with my, like if you look at some of my original scripts, I got like 5 revisions on them, and things. And I look at that and I'm like, wow, And then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to put it out there, and just had the confidence to put it out there. And, and I got positive feedback, for the most part. I got positive feedback. And then we just kept going from there, and that's pretty much, how everything got started.
Mm-hmm. And so, the question there is, if you plan that far into the future, does that in any way constrict your creativity or anything like that? Do you feel, the question is, do you feel hemmed in having to plan out that far? Or is it liberating because you always know in the back of your head which way things are going to go, and then your mind works with that?
Well, that's exactly what it is. I know which way it's going to go, but especially on the rewrites, it's always like a little add-in, because one of the animations that I really enjoyed was Ghost in the Shell, and I used to watch this religiously. I used to DVR it, and one of the things that I liked about that, as well as like Justice League and stuff like that, was they gave you a little snippet of what's going to happen in the next episode, or something that kind of was a piece of what one of the future episodes was. And you didn't really notice that until you got to the next episode. Like, this kind of, they did this because it was going to lead up to that. And that's why I kind of like do that. As far as like know what's going to be in the next episode, but it doesn't restrict me in the sense of telling the whole story. It just kind of adds. It gives me a little more added value of, all right, I need to make sure that there's going to be a connection here, from this story to the next story, and then the stories is still an independent story,
Well, and then doesn't that make it easier for you? I mean, I don't know how many times I rewrite a book. I mean, my last book, I'm on my 4th go round before I give it to the editors. But I mean, when you have a story that you've got that many arcs planned out, and you have that much of your, the story planned out, it does give you a lot more freedom to play around with it, because you know ultimately where it's going to go. And then if you think of something cool that you could put in there, a twist or something unexpected, or something that doesn't, that misdirects the reader so that later on there's a surprise, that seems like, you lay down the groundwork. It's like building the house, but you could paint every room whatever color you want to paint it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And it's funny because I like that part of the story writing process, because you always you forward thinking and backward thinking, like, all right, what's going to happen next and what's going to happen, because it's just with this second episode that's going to be coming out, and hopefully the end of June, end of July, early August. I actually added a group of characters that was planned for some latter episodes.
Okay.
Based on what we were doing, in hindsight now, I had to kind of like tie it in and bring it forward. So what PBS Media does, we actually host a skateboard competition called Rebels on Decks. And the Rebels on Deck skate competition is a community event that we host. And it's to raise money for scholarship opportunities for minority students to go to STEM institutions,
Sure. So science, technology, energy, engineering, and math.
Yes. So one of the things that, what was happening was I just did a promotional skateboard with the graphic of PB Soldier on it. As far as one of the little products that we have as far as the company. And then, of course, we started doing the skateboard competitions. So the people who are, looking at the comic, they were like, is the comic book about skateboarding? Just with the clarification, I was like, no, it's not about skateboarding, but there's a group of youth that's in there that skateboard. And
okay.
This particular youth, which is called Blue Steel, and is Blue Steel because they hack into systems for fun, and they do a lot of high-tech crimes. That's what they do. And in this world where, you got heavy surveillance and things of that sort, it's fun for them to be able to do that. And we get into the education system where the education system is run by corporations and things of that sort. They were kind of like ostracized outside of the system, weren't able to use their creativity, but as far as they're concerned, the low tech thing that they do is they love to skateboard, So they go into corporations, they hack into systems, they hack into the energy grid, they hack into bank accounts and all of these other things. But the low-tech thing, and they got all these little gadgets, and all the low-tech thing they like to do is skateboard, So they actually tied into this world, and that was something that I wanted to kind of have in some of the latter episodes, but I actually had to bring that forward because it connected better with the Rebels on Deck skateboard competition that we host. And we actually go to 3 cities doing this.
Wow.
Yep.
And it sounds like, what that is that's very typical of kids anyway. And when I say kids, I mean like teenagers, young adults. They'll do what they do, but their recreation or their entertainment or what they do to unwind is usually something completely outside of, well, in your case, outside of hacking. They get completely away from the keyboard and they get out and they're out and about, boarding it, and so it sounds like your writing is pretty authentic, and it sounds like, you've taken into account, the subculture of your audience, and, what do you do to keep that fresh? And then we do have a question in here. Do you plan your stories out visually, or is that more the artist? It sounds to me like it's more you doing the actual planning. Yeah.
I have to have an image in my mind because that's how I'm writing. And like I said, the engineering actually helped with that because, my engineering training made me more visual and, more detail-oriented. So, like, when I'm writing a script, I'm very descriptive on what I'm looking to see. But I would have to say that the artists that I work with, and this is why I kind of like, when I did the audition, I did the the short story version of it, because I wanted to be able to work with someone. I didn't have to tell them everything that I needed to happen, So he could see the script line by line, and then pretty much know the vision that I was trying to do with the story. And, and then he sends me back the sketches, and, I give him some feedback, and that's pretty much how it goes. But my whole first episode, I had pictures. I had did schematics, I did all of these things to, kind of map out what it's going to look like. And, of course, when you're starting off and everything, you're not even sure if it even looks right, so.
Well, and because you're not necessarily an artist, the auditioning process is very important, because eventually you can't micromanage every shade, every line, every color.
Yeah.
You have to have someone who has a congruent vision of what it is you're trying to put out, and then that allows you to be even more creative, because you don't have to babysit and say, oh, no, they have to be doing this, or it has to, it has to shade out this. So that's good that you have found good collaborative partners. How hard a process was that? we know you went through an auditioning process, but was it difficult? Was it long? Was it drawn out? Or did you get lucky and find people who could kind of see what you saw?
Well, it was long in the process because, like we were talking about earlier, how, like when you're new to an industry and you just learning the ins and outs. So I would work with local artists. I actually had some high school students do some stuff for me initially. All of these things I was, doing. And I was paying for all of this stuff. And it never really gave me the look that I wanted.
Okay.
And I was never really satisfied with, with the product and everything. But what I did, once I did the audition, and I just was like, you know what, I'm going to host an audition. And it was an online audition. I put it on put an advertisement out there, and they sent me their stuff. They sent me their stuff, and they showed me what their vision was based on what I did, because I already knew, just to answer Kid Galactus's question, I already knew my camera angles and things of that sort. Now, I wasn't sure that they were all going to be the best angles when I wrote the story, but I did have camera angles and stuff in mind when I, was writing the story, because that was the part that I put in my script. And that actually came from my training from NYU, actually, and, just to big up NYU for a minute. I don't want to do an advertisement for them, but one of the things that they do have within their courses is that they have people who are in industry teaching the courses. So, so the individual who actually taught the course for storyboarding and animatics was the director for animation for Noggin for Nickelodeon. So, he gave me a lot of insight. And for me to develop an animatic from just still pictures, because everybody else in the class, if they weren't, if they was not a pretty good artist, they were well off enough to do, a decent sketch. That wasn't my case. I was, by no means an artist, but I was looking at it from a writing standpoint and how to make sure that I place things in the storyboard. And then that actually taught me how to do the story direction piece, because that was the part that I was lacking. And that allowed me to write the scripts in a lot more efficiently and effectively.
And again, there is no substitution for going to school or getting training in the fundamentals of what you want to do. It obviously it gave you a quicker route to crystallizing your vision and understanding how people get to that point. So, I mean, all in all, again, I want to point this out to people who listen. Your fundamentals are essential in making you as good as you can possibly be as quickly as it can possibly happen. Because if you're just a dumbass out there bumping your head into stuff all the time, running around in the dark and tripping over things in your newly chosen profession, first of all, it's going to be a tough row to hoe for you to make money at it. You can't make money at it if you don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, anybody who pays you is a fool, and money's too tight out there to have a whole bunch of fools out there.
Oh, this is true. I mean, because, knowledge is power, and those who have the knowledge are those who have the power. And, just from an education standpoint, I always think that learning is a never-ending process, and there's always something that you can learn. And what you spend your time learning is, according to how effective you're going to, because you always got to look at the business too. A lot of people get caught up in the art of, of their product and stuff, and never focus on the business side, and end up belly up because they never focused on, how you need to market your product, how you get it out there. You need people to see it in order for them to buy it. And, you could be very talented, but no one ever sees your product, so it's just like, it's like you're unknown, basically, So my focus was pretty much, coming out with a quality product and then still trying to get it out there for people to see.
Yeah, and people, creatives often get insulted when you tell them that, they have to pay attention to the business of doing business as part of what they're doing, as a very important, sometimes a more time-consuming part. I would say in all of my shows that I've done and all the people I've interviewed, most of them have said that the creative part is, anywhere from, whatever percent to 25 to 30% or what of their time. And then the rest of it is doing the marketing, is mailing out stuff, is doing the public relations, showing up at, gallery openings or whatever, and or like you said, going to conventions. If you have, conventions are, they don't call them Comic Cons for nothing. Okay, that's the essence of what they are. They're conventions about the comic industry by and large. Now, some of them, like San Diego, have turned into, pretty much a more entertainment-oriented consumer electronics show.
Yes.
But in the final analysis, like when you go there, you're there to sell products that are related to your comics, like whatever shirts, skateboards, what have you. But your main focus is branding your own stuff so that people recognize it and return to it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. And I mean, and the thing is, like one of the things that I've noticed within the industry, and like I'm looking at the research. I mean, just researching, at black people in general, we always, like we want to look at, cost savings and things of that sort, which is relatively great. But you also got to be able to put out a quality product, because the thing is, you want to be able to pick up any one of these books, and not because I'm a black writer or I'm an engineer or I'm someone who was born in an urban environment. You want to buy my product. You want to buy my product because it's a quality product, and the fact that the story's written well, the artwork is good in quality, because that's the things that keep people going back. You'll get your friends, you'll get the people, I would say the sympathetic buyers, like, oh yeah, you're out there, you're trying to do something, that's positive. You get those sales. But then, after they read your book and things of that sort, now you don't get them to get the comeback. You want them to be able to come. You want customer loyalty. Those are the
That's
things
true.
For, because 80% of your business comes from 20% of your people. So you that.
Yeah, like you said, you don't get return customers from black guilt marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they said, I already helped the brother out. He's on his own from here. I bought his product, and if he doesn't get any better than this, well, there's no reason for me to be a return customer.
Yes.
And so that, obviously that's where that whole zenith quality goes in before the name goes on. That kind of thinking should be at the forefront of somebody who's trying to produce a serial product like yours. So, I mean, obviously you're working at the branding. You understand the branding, which is very important. Let's talk a little bit about, when you're at a convention,
yes,
what are the kinds of conversations do you have, with people who come up to you, who stop by the booth, who actually may even come to see you specifically?
Well, two things that I try to do, and this is once again goes into branding. When you come to the PBS Media booth, you will see an assortment of things. Visually, it's going to look appealing. That's the first thing. So we got a backdrop, we got the table runner and everything. And that's before you even get to the table. Then we have a screen there showing some visuals of, maybe an interview that I did or some of the actual comic pages and stuff. And that's before you even talk to me, or any other individuals who will be working, at the table or whatever. And then when you get to the table, we kind of like try to draw you into the story and everything. So it's a whole experience piece that goes along with this. And that's kind of like why, I go into the whole tagline of join the movement, because we're not just trying to sell a book or whatever. We try to engulf you into the whole environment of what this whole world is about. Like I even came up with a special language, that kind of that ties into the book or whatever, that hasn't fully, came out yet, because that's supposed to be a membership privilege that you will get with the newsletters and things of that sort, because I'm trying to mimic everything that's kind of going on in the story into the real world, because a lot of the stuff that happens in the story was is like a foreshadow of what could happen, if, in that we already have some of these elements already in place.
Did you see the question in there? What are some of the branding issues for comics in general and
general.
Black comics in specific? I can actually tell you what the big issue is. The top issue is if your story is not entertaining to whomever reads it, you're going to have a tough time branding anything.
Yes.
And so a lot of people try to ignore the fact that if it's a a black themed work, then it should appeal to black people. Yes. And I've always thought that was a mistake. In my case, it's not comics, it's novels, but I want to write a damn good story, a story that nobody's ever read before, and a story that I prosecute well. And then the fact that there are black themes, and it may be even oriented toward a black audience, is not the primary thing. The primary thing is the quality. And I think if you write a good story, regardless of who the characters are racially, you're going to probably get some traction.
Yes.
Would you agree that that's the same thing? That's the same thing for comics for you?
Yes, for comics for me, without me, I know you guys put me on a flyer or whatever, and if you didn't see me, I know that the lead character is a black individual, but the storyline will kind of, would gravitate to any culture, anyone who's facing a struggle or anything like that. So that was the story that I was looking to tell. So regardless if it was any neighborhood, when we look at the whole, I always look at the 99 and the 1%. So that my story was supposed to appeal to the 99%. That was how my story. That's how I was kind of like writing the story, to appeal to the 99%. But it just so happens that it has some characters that are that looks like me and my kids.
Well, something that a lot of people overlook when they write their stories and when they try to put together a creative universe is, everything you do should be in the name of and of who your customer base is. And okay, if you're going to write a comic book and it's just for black teens or black young adults or whatever, then what you've done is you have chosen a very, very, very narrow market.
Yes.
That probably is not going to, well, let's put it this way. At the onset, it's going to be tough to make a lot of money, to make sustaining money, to even break even, because that market is so much smaller than the total comic book market out there. When you look at, you've got a guy from Spain helping you out, but good and well, a whole lot of comics are being digested in the Asian countries, Japan, and so if you write a comic that you are trying to set up to be so narrowly specific, I think that financially that's a bad business plan.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, because even if you look in the pages of the Renaissance City world or the PB Soldier world, you would see that it has a diverse group of individuals in it, you know. So I cut across all of those boundaries, you know, where we have different minority groups, you know, Asian, white American, we go into Hispanic. We have all of those groups within, and I also have those characters in the story, as far as future characters and stuff. But the first 13 episodes that I planned out was pretty much just focused on the main character, PB Soldier, so you can, you know, see his development in this whole situation.
And again, you're building your brand.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so hang on a second. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the Black Science Fiction Society.com website. This is the June 6th, 2014 edition, and our special guest is, now, do you just pronounce it Gifted?
Yes, Gifted. Okay. A lot of people see it and
Gifted,
like,
yeah.
Look, it can't be Gifted. It's got to be something else. Gifted.
Well, I mean, come on. You know, look at how many people out there are named Hennessy and all kinds of other names. Don't even get me started on a.
Every time people read it, they second guess it. It's got to be Gifted or I don't know, Gifted or something else. It can't be Gifted.
Yeah, but see, I mean, you're a lot luckier than I am. I've got an answering service that I've had for a few decades, and they can't pronounce Hayashi to save their life. Now, I know they don't hire brain surgeons to answer the phone.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like the Johnson of Japan. You know, get with the flow, you know. But it does help me because every 4 or 5 months I complain about it, and then they give me a free month for, you know, to shut me up. So it's working for me.
Oh,
just not the way I want it. Just not the way I want it. All right, so you've got let's tick off the things here. First of all, you've got a great collaboration with somebody. Now, have you ever met your artist, or have you only met them through the internet, electronically?
We only meet through the internet. But
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing because look how many people do that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it was, you know, you have to step outside of the box sometimes. And like I said, initially, all my experiences was I had to be able to touch the individual that I was working with. You know, I need to be able to go to your house just in case, you know, because I know I'm paying you money to be able to, you know, make sure that my stuff is being met at timelines and things of that sort. But me and Abel built a relationship, and, you know, and with technology today, and this is how another way that we utilize technology, that we're able to work from oceans apart, you know, and make something that's quality. So, you know, part of the movement that's going on is that even though I'm marketing everything in the U.S., he's marketing over in Spain, in Barcelona. So, you know, like when this thing really does hit, it's going to have more of a worldly feel because of the, you know, the cross promotions from, you know, different parts of the world that's happening.
And I'm assuming he's from Spain, right?
Yes.
So do you think that his participation might be offering you a broader, a world entertainment view, or are you pretty much very tight with your storylines so that he doesn't have that kind of influence? I mean, how are you kind of
one of the things that I've learned is that, you know, I got to let people do what they do well. You know,
okay,
and that just comes from management and, you know, just working with people. I mean, if you hire somebody to do their job, let them do their job. I mean, you know, I have my parameters, I have my outlines of things that I want, but, you know, like, you know, he has a lot of creative freedom with, you know, some of the looks and stuff. I just got, you know, like, look, it has to have these elements in it, and then from there he kind of develops what it's going to look like from there, and we kind of go back and forth and we have a dialogue, and, you know, and that's pretty much it. But a lot of the stuff that that we kind of, you know, like you would see in the book, we collaborated on, and like I had a visual image of what the city would look like. You know, and it's funny that you're from Chicago because all of the different neighborhoods within Renaissance City was supposed to be representative of the different neighborhoods throughout the world or throughout the U.S. and everything. And one of them, which was the South Side, was emulated South Side Chicago, you know, when I originally entered. And then the North Side was going to be, you know, actually Manhattan. East Side was Manhattan, like Lower Manhattan.
Right.
You know, the West was, you know, emulated what, you know, a neighborhood would look like in Newark, New Jersey, you know, and things of that sort. So, you know, I kind of built all of that in, and then he took what I had and kind of shaped it and, you know, and just came out with a beautiful product. I mean, when he sends me the stuff back, man, I get excited, you know, I get excited because, you know, two things, you know, you never thought it could happen. And then you just to see your vision materialize into something, you just, I mean, it's inspiring.
Well, it's like when they send me the first galley of my book. You know, they send me the actual book, and I go, oh my God, it's actually real now. There's that.
Yeah.
There's that facet too. Let's go back a little bit earlier. I mean, you're an educator. You said you're a vice principal.
Yes.
And is this elementary, high school?
High school.
Which?
I'm a high school vice principal for Central High School in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, and then are the students there generally aware of your, you know, your comic book efforts?
Well, yes, I engulfed. Well, being at a high school, you know, you get a couple of things that to your benefit. First, you have a lot of students, so you have a lot of product testing areas and things of that sort. But I actually mentor a group of individuals called EGOS, which is Elite Group of Students. And basically what I do with them is I mentor them on leadership and entrepreneurship. So part of what I do is I like to expose them to, you know, what it is to be an entrepreneur. So they come with me to the Comic Cons, they come with me to all of these different things, and they bring back the experiences to the other students, you know. So, you know, being that they feel like they're, you know, extra privileged and stuff, you know, like all of the other students kind of gravitate to, you know, what I'm doing, and, you know, they get excited about it. You know, I put a couple of copies in the library, and they, you know, they're excited about that, and then they, you know, they kind of look at me in a different light for that, you know, for those kids who are into that, you know, that whole.
And now, so, what age group are you kind of targeting for your comics?
Well, my theme is really middle school and up, you know, because, you know, it's a much more mature theme. You know, and actually the visuals are much more mature also, because I actually have some blood. I have some, you know, some type of killing and stuff like that to go with the story, but nothing, you know, out of context from what they already are exposed to. You know,
sure,
as far,
sure.
You know, the media.
So it's kind of age appropriate.
Yeah.
For high schoolers.
Yes.
And do you get any feedback from parents about your work?
You know, it's funny. Like when I go to a lot of the comic conventions and stuff, and you know, like my son is 10 years old, and you know, I may see some younger, you know, younger students and stuff like that, and you know, like they like the book, they like the look of the book, they want to read the story and stuff. And, you know, and I kind of, you know, I already told you I put the teen rating on it, you know, because it does blood and stuff like that. And I know that, you know, from a parent's perspective, you know, like I wouldn't want my kid to do this if, you know, that's not what you're into. But the common thing that I usually get from them is, oh, they see all this in the video games that they play anyway, you know, or, you know, like this is nothing worse than what they see in the video games. But I know it's watered down from what, you know, they do in the video games, because, some of these video games is, they go above and beyond some of the things that you would think is appropriate for a kid to see.
Yeah, and the fact that you've already taken that into account, I think, is smart marketing.
I mean, because I think as a educator, as a parent, how would I want to react to something like this? Because I know I'm very strict on what my kids watch.
Right.
So and I think of things like that when I'm developing this whole thing, and that kind of ties into the educational connection. As I look to connect this more to the Common Core state standards, that's what you'll be seeing, a little more down the line. And then this actually have lesson plans and things of that sort to connect the book to classroom instruction. That's one of the next steps that I'm working on. That I'm actually trying to hire an intern to kind of help me put all that together, because I have so many other little projects that I'm, doing in the background. So we really don't have time to get everything together like I want it to, to happen.
Really, you're gonna almost put together what I would call an educational cartoon, or an educational comic, rather?
Well, yes. Well, basically, I was going to connect everything that I'm already doing to where it aligns in the Common Core state standards, and then develop lesson plans so they can use it within the classroom to teach, because you use it as another medium to teach, because they have various standards like tone, when you're teaching tone, setting, background, discussions on all of those type of topics. The actual theme of the story, how does the Patriot Act affect, how you live your life today. That in itself is a historical piece. It's it's something that's real. It goes into stop and frisk. It goes into all of these little things that we have up, but not really pay attention to. And what if they escalated those things? What would happen? So I mean, I always see the direct correlation to what it would look like in the classroom and everything.
Right. So it's gratifying to hear that somebody is going to use a very teenage accessible medium to teach essentially social studies, which, with these new so-called standards, the No Child Left Behind thing, essentially was, since they didn't fund it, was designed to teach kids just enough reading and math so that they can make change at McDonald's.
Yes.
What you're looking at is bringing back some of the core areas like social studies, things that teach cause and effect and actually teach cognitive thinking.
Yes.
Back into the school. You're going to be shot. They're not going to stand for that.
Well,
What are you crazy? You're going to teach folks to think on their own?
Well,
the nerve of you.
Well, you do it undercover with symbolism and stuff. So, and have people really raise their own questions like, well, why do we have this, like, for instance, the Sankofa bird? What does that represent?
Right.
Because I have that in the story, like, so some of those symbols, you were like, whoa, I mean, I did it all purposely. I don't go into, because even as an individual, when we talk about history and things of that sort, you just don't want to get beat over the head with a lot of, facts and dates and things of that sort. So the learning is happening, and you're not even knowing that it's really happening,
And that's the best way.
Then you're able to relate to the story in the sense that, like, look, oh wow, I actually learned something, and I actually like what's going on, So that's one of the next in the underlying things that's happening, because even the stories with as far as the visions that he's having, even though I've made them fictional, a lot of them are based on historical fact, So but that was a part of the whole writing process that I was doing when I was doing the research and everything like that before I even came out with the book. And then also the other one little thing, and this is where the science and math and everything come in. I would say that PB Soldier has inclination to use the environment to build some of his contraptions, almost like a whole little like MacGyver type thing. And that shows some of the science, and technology. I don't give all of the elements because I don't want people to build smoke bombs and things of that sort. But that it just pretty much shows that like anything is possible. Because as a child, we built ramps, we built clubhouses, we used to have slingshots and all these other little things, that bow and arrows, just based off of tree limbs, a couple of sticks, some rubber bands, and things of that sort. So, we just made it happen, and that's kind of like what the world PB Soldier is kind of living in, where he has to pretty much use the environment around him to survive and adapt.
And which isn't a bad idea, because when the zombie apocalypse comes, a lot of those skills are going to be very, very necessary.
Oh yeah.
What is your? How old is your? How many kids do you have?
I have 2 children.
How old are they?
One is 10. He just turned 10, and I have a 5-year-old daughter who will be 6 next week.
Okay, so what does your 10-year-old think about PB Soldier?
Oh, he likes it. He gravitates to it. I actually wanted to use it as a medium to help him with his writing.
Kind of like a teaching aid.
Yeah, because what I'm always looking at is resources in different mediums to help kids. Or my kid in general to write more and speak to stories and stuff like that. So I had an exercise with him where he kind of tells me like these little stories that I should write about and stuff like that. So I tell him, okay, all right, so I'm gonna write it down. Write something down for me. Tell me how it's gonna tell me how it's gonna play out and stuff. So later on. Try to incorporate him into the story writing process and do 2 things: help him learn the industry, and then help him with his writing and everything also. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to do. As far as my family is concerned.
And how's his imagination?
Oh man, this kid, he's heavy into the science and math. He keeps saying that he wants to be a teacher or vice principal because I guess to him I made it cool for him, so he kind of like looking at Dad and said, oh, wow, I want to be a teacher and everything. But he also has an inclination to work with, he like doing a lot of hands-on things, so he does, he plays with robots. He always fascinated with robots and stuff. So I have the Lego Next set for him that he plays with. And he likes building the Lego structures and doing science experiments. That's the thing. He's heavy into science. That's one of the things he is.
Very cool. When you get to the point, are you looking ahead to maybe make this into an animated series?
Yes. That was my whole vision for this project. And that's why it's laid out as episodes and things of that sort. I planned it as if I was writing for a season, so 13 episodes was my season. And everything is pretty much centered around that. But the cost to do an animation is so huge that, for my starting point, that's where the graphic novel series comes out of.
Sure. Well, actually, the price of admission now to doing animation, once you learn your craft, is a lot cheaper. Well,
Mm-hmm.
It's infinitely cheaper than it was even 5 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
For, let's say you go top line, you're talking maybe $2,000 worth of software, and maybe $1,000 machine. So I mean, to be your own movie house for $3,000. I mean, not to say that $3,000 is not a considerable sum. It's still expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than $100,000 or $150,000.
Well, this is true. This is true, and as I'm still, working on a brand and everything, I'm still networking and building relationships because the animation piece is not the piece that I would be doing. I would have to have someone else to do it. But like I said to you earlier, that's why I did those classes and everything, because I need to be able to direct that piece once I'm working with that individual. So I know the ins and outs.
Sure. Well, not only that, but the other thing is you don't have to do everything, but you have to understand how everything fits together.
Yes.
And the other thing is you also have to make sure you don't get ripped off.
This is true.
And I've had people tell me they could do something, and 6 months later, and a deposit down, they haven't produced anything. So obviously, knowing your market, knowing your tool set, knowing the needs that you're going to have as a creator, again, I can't imagine you not doing your due diligence. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty up on getting that part done.
Well, like I said, I'm just working accordingly. And, I have a few individuals that are helping me make this happen. So, that's pretty much it. And like I was saying before, I'm just trying to get to a certain level before I even get more into the animation piece, because the animation is definitely coming. It's definitely there. But I'm still trying to build up the brand. So once we do have the animation out there, people are looking for the animation and stuff too.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let's back way up. I mean, you were probably an educator before you were a comic creator, correct?
It's true.
and so, that's not a huge leap, because you know as well as I do that comics are one of the most effective ways to get to a teenage population.
It's true.
So it's not hard to imagine why you do and why you gravitated to what where you are right now. One of the things that I'm kind of curious about is, going from engineering to education, and then education and comic or graphic novel creation at the same time. It sounds like you have a pretty full day every day of your life. I mean, how do you parcel out your time? What's your time management like?
Wow, yeah, that's part of the problem. But basically, as a business entrepreneur startup, you have the weekend. The weekend is where I get a lot of stuff done. Really, my Saturdays is where I pretty much hone in on a lot of stuff that I do with PB Soldier. That's really where it is. My Saturdays, I cannot discount my Saturdays. My job is high demanding, and I only now, towards the end of the school year, where I have a little more flexibility, because I'm just getting evaluations and things complete. But
right.
It's really the weekends is when I'm able to do it. And I kind of built that up from when I was doing graduate school, and I was working full time, of course, with children and stuff, where I would just pretty much dedicate my Saturdays to make sure I get my graduate work done. And that kind of been like my little pattern that I've been following ever since. And that's pretty much how I'm able to do some certain things. And certain things I'm able to do, just off of email and things of that sort. But, and a lot of the conventions lie on the weekends and stuff, so that kind of works in my favor. But the bulk of the work I get to do late nights on Saturdays and Friday nights, and that's how I manage to make it happen. Because when I leave from when I leave from work, some nights, I have my kids, and I got to spend some time with them and make some things happen with them. And then once I put them to bed, if I'm not too tired, then I'll pull a late night, or if it's something pressing, I'll just try to manage some time to get it done. But the bulk of my time is those Saturdays. Those Saturdays are so important for me and keeping the business going.
And it sounds like you have, a supportive partner there, or at least, a supportive household to allow you to get those things done, correct?
Yes.
I don't like to talk about people's spousal units or anything, but I mean, when you're in your creative mode, are you afforded the luxury of, working kind of in isolation and getting done what you want to get done?
Well, yes, I am, and that's some of the things that's it could be a relationship killer. I would say
it can, yeah.
And my lady, she's very understanding of it. Sometimes, I'm gonna say sometimes, not all the time. But when I get engulfed in things like this, I won't even take a break or go to the bathroom or eat or anything because I'm so engulfed in what I'm trying to do and getting something accomplished. That's really what it's about. Trying to just okay, I just got to get this thing accomplished today, and and then I go back to it and maybe tweak or something like that. But I always set a goal to try to get something done. And, my daytime is, trying to manage the whole relationships and, the time and everything. But the nights is pretty much, all night and going to do what I need to do to, try to keep this business afloat.
And I can relate to that because, for me, my most creative time is, usually after 10 p.m. So I'll write when I'm in full on writing mode for, a book or a short story. I'll go from maybe 10 until 2 in the morning because I do try to treat writing as a part-time job because that way you actually get the job done.
Yes.
But it's quiet during those times, and you are allowed to have a little, I'm allowed to have a little more concentration because I don't have to answer the phone. I mean, I had someone call me today and ask me why his Wi-Fi wasn't working, and I can't just bust out and say, hey, I'm not Kreskin, I'm not at your place. I don't know why you're, but see, that never happens after 10 p.m. So it's good to be able to have the time to not only do the creative things, but, like you said, the business of doing business is something that you're very much up on. And even though that's harder to do after hours, at least you can do your prep work, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Do you see any of the same type of creativity in what your son does yet, or is he more about what you're doing than he is about maybe doing his own creations? Do you think he's going to follow in your footsteps?
I'm not sure yet. I think my daughter will be more likely to follow in my footsteps than my son as of now, because he's still kind of like finding his way and, developing into the person that he's going to be,
Right.
He likes what I do. He kind of follows what I do and everything, and he emulates some things. But as far as this whole project is with PBS Media and this entertainment studio that I have developed, he's in it, but he's not vested, because I always run stuff by him to try to get a little feedback from him and stuff like that. So he's like, oh yeah, I like this, Dad, and stuff like that. But my daughter, she is more, oh, PB Soldier, and like I got pictures of her when I, like when you first get your first novel in the box, and we cracked open the box, and she's cheesing from cheek to cheek. And
yeah.
he was too. He was too. But I mean, like, she was really delighted with the whole thing. I would say more than he is, but he is definitely excited about it, but not as excited as she is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And to raise up a girl who is into the industry is, first of all, it's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
But I think that there's so much potential for using this kind of medium to educate and to even mentor, to instill values that I think are very important for kids to have to grow up effectively. That sounds like a pretty good deal, man. Keep an eye on her. Keep us posted on what she does, because that's outstanding.
They love going to Comic-Con. They love that. That's one of the highlights of their year, going to Comic-Con. And they haven't got into the full dress-up thing or anything like that yet, but they love going to Comic-Con and experiencing that, because all of their favorite characters are there and stuff. So they love it. They love it.
Mhm. When you started out thinking about doing the whole comic thing, who were some of your influences?
As far as comics?
Yeah.
Well, I really draw my inspiration from movies, as far as comics, because I was a big collector earlier, when I was much younger, in my preteens to my early teens, and then got into basketball and girls and kind of fell off the comic book scene. But some of the people that I was actually following, I would have to say was let's see, I'm trying to think of the names. I got some names in my head. Well, let me go to my movie references first. Gary Whitta, who was the writer for Book of Eli.
Right.
I was fascinated with all of that, from a science fiction standpoint. Also, Fahrenheit 451. That was one of the books. So, like, all of these kind of books and stuff, Malcolm X, Alex Haley, Roots, all of those things kind of tied into, my story writing and things. When I visualize what my comic would look like. So I kind of like have I would say if I had to pigeonhole, my style kind of it involves a Roots with a little Book of Eli and a taste of Fahrenheit 451. And the other book that I also, was kind of into was Little Brother, which is Corey Doxstroff. I know I'm mispronouncing the last name, but Little Brother was another little teenage book that I read, that kind of like, helped me shape what I was doing, with the whole comic and everything. But I really drew a lot of my inspiration from animation, really animation.
Oh, you're talking about Little Brother by Cory Doctorow.
Yes, Cory Doctorow.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. About 4 teenagers in San Francisco.
Yep. That was that. It's a whole lot of books that kind of inspired me. Like I look at Asada Shakur's book. I look at Stolen Legacies. All of these books kind of like influenced my writing and script for what I was looking for to shape PB Soldier.
Were you a reader as a kid?
Yeah, for the most part, I read books, but I didn't read. I didn't read if I didn't have to read. That was one of
Okay.
the things I didn't do. When I got to college, though, I read. I read a lot of books because I was with a group of individuals. We had a very diverse group of individuals that was in my immediate circle. I mean, from various religious sects, and we used to have debates about religion all day long, and you had to be armed with your information. So we used to do so much historical references and stuff like that, and just being in that type of environment just made you sharper. You know,
Sure.
they say still sharpen still, and that was one of the things that kind of made me sharp. And during that time period is when I read a lot of books, and I wasn't even reading for entertainment. I was just reading for knowledge, and building up knowledge for myself, and being able to articulate that to others.
Mm-hmm. Somebody, I forgot to ask this earlier, but let me ask you this: do you have any, traditional Black mythos in the PB Soldier story? Not necessarily African influences, but what kind of memes do you try to put in there to kind of structure the sociology of the characters in your book,
Well,
in your comic books?
all of the historical references
Right.
of PB Soldier's ancestry ties back to a historical figure.
Okay.
So, Shu, which is what most people would consider the god of the sky, which is one of his Egyptian ancestors, is who you would see on the front cover of PB Soldier. Then you have Diallo, which means bold, which is another of his ancestors that was from the 15th century West African ancestor. So I kind of I tied in a lot of that stuff through his ancestry, and kind of captured that within that, and then tied it into how everything is kind of connected. Where he comes from a long line of warrior chiefs. And
yeah, I was curious, since you've got a dual track story. It almost lends itself very, very easily and appropriately to kind of a historical meme in the story. So that's why I was wondering. Now, when you have your story arc, like you said, you have these tens upon scores of episodes planned out, and you have some very, very broad story arcs. Let's look a little bit in the future. How far out in the future do you think it's going to take you to conclude telling this story? And then the B part of that story is, do you have another creative universe in the back of your head that you're going to change to? Or are you going to stick with this one for quite some time and ride it out as long as you can?
Well, that was two parts with that. One thing is I do have it planned out for 53 episodes.
Right.
They're not all fully written, but I do have an overview of what I want those episodes to look like. So I do have a future for this. The other thing that I wanted to do as far as spin-offs and stuff is some of the sub-characters that are in the main story, giving them their own line of stories and stuff too, because I have very unique characters embedded into the story. But the first 13 episodes is what my vision is as far as moving to print, and then kind of just moving from that into
animation, yeah.
And just
or you're going to start. You're going to get with the interactive part and then go to animation, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how hard is it for you to create? Is it for you to write at this point?
Um, I could just say it's been a process, and I've gotten better at it. That's it.
No,
And
that's very fair. Yeah.
you know, but initially, when I started off writing this, it was very rough, I would say. I thought I had, you know, I thought I had a good story initially, and then, as I looked at other people's stuff and, just doing research and stuff like that, and then, once you do a couple of courses on some of this stuff, you're like, oh, okay, I see how I can improve. And the only way you improve on any of this stuff is, through feedback and revision and things of that sort. And I learned that just being an educator. Like the only way a kid can get better is by the teacher giving him or her feedback. And I take that model into my writing. Just getting feedback and building off of that. So, just like I told you, the director of animation for Nickelodeon. He was one of the first people that I sent the script to, when I developed the story. And he gave me some really honest feedback. And I took that feedback. I wasn't mad. I wasn't, like, okay, you know what, he's not appreciating good writing. I knew I needed work. And with that, I embraced it, and I put it into the next episodes and things, so I just kept moving forward. And then even with the reviews that I got, I looked at it, like I got a 3 out of 5 for the first episode, but to say granted, I was nominated for 2 Glyph Awards for episode 1, so, all of that stuff was, really good, and, and I found, like, little mistakes in the first, version of the book, and, corrected those, and, made sure the story had more of a continuity. But you just take all that stuff and you take those criticisms and you just embrace it instead of taking it and not using it to your advantage.
Right. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes to go, so you're almost off the hook.
Oh, okay.
Well, the thing about editing and rewrite, I think, is universal. The first, and part of this was because of someone let me know at the last moment, but my first novel, we were editing until it was 20 minutes of the deadline, 20 minutes to the deadline of when I had to have my book uploaded to the publisher in order to lay it out properly and have it available for Christmas of 2009.
Wow.
So, and my editor and I were in my living room, and we were working on it, and it had to go out at 7 o'clock our time, and I uploaded it at 6:40. So, I mean, and then even now, there's typos in the book that I want to get cleaned up and things like that. So I don't think too many writers would not admit to the fact that they could edit forever.
Yeah.
Because as you read through it, you say, oh, I want to change that phrase a little bit, or let me use a different word or whatever. And sometimes it's very hard to get to the point where you just say, I'm done. I'm not doing anymore. We have to be done so I can send it out. So that, I think what you're experiencing is pretty universal and pretty natural. And nobody wants to, I don't think anybody in their right mind wants to put out a crappy product.
Yes.
It's just that some people don't care enough to understand what not to do so that they don't do that, And the other thing that I admire in you is that you have said that you're able to take criticism. And not a lot of people are able to do that. People will give me something to read, and they'll say, could you critique this? And I go, well, really? Or not really? Because in many cases, when I critique something, they just go away and they never speak to me again. It's almost as if what they wanted was a cheerleader and not a critique.
Yes.
And so what you've done is you've taken what people have told you, the critique that they had, you've looked at it, and where you have found that this makes absolute sense, you go ahead and you can make the changes. So What I'm saying is your ego is not so inextricably wedded to your work so that you're incapable of accepting criticism.
Mhm. I mean, like I said, I just embrace it. I mean, I think of all of this as a blessing. To be able to even get to this point, because this was something that I had in my brain, and then now to see it, materialize and move into something, I'm just very, I just feel blessed to be able to get to that point. And then the other added benefit to this is just, like for the guys that I mentor, the Eagles, the elite group of students, for them to be able to see something like this and, and see me do it, is just, inspiration for them, because, that got them want to do more. And that's what you want to be able to do for, kids and stuff, is just expose them, and then through that exposure, they are able to take that experience and do something else with it, and it maybe even be better than what you were doing, because how I even got the whole mentoring group was they were interested in comics and stuff like that, and I said, you know what, if you guys are interested, you guys are going to come under my wing, and I'm gonna show you. I'm going to just show you. I'm going to bring you where everything is happening and show you what's happening. And then from there, kind of like it built around a whole lot of things. So at the school, they built their own little gaming tournament, and it was very unique for what they did. Like they called it Elite Gaming Tournament, EGT. And, and now they're looking to, like, franchise it. They wanted to take it to other schools and stuff, So, I mean, I just hope, when people do see stuff and, it just inspires others to do something.
Well, and what you're doing is you are leading by example. I mean, when kids see that something can be done, that's huge. My biggest example is when we've got a whole generation, a new generation of kids who have never been without a black president.
Oh, yes.
So there's the visual of the possible. And what you're doing is you're also giving kids the visual of the possible.
Mhm.
Let me ask you, where do you think you're going to be 5 years from now?
5 years from now, well, my vision is to have the entertainment studio somewhere, hopefully in New Jersey. But
right.
I'm looking also to move to Atlanta with the entertainment studio, and pretty much producing various animations, some in the line of PB Soldier, and then also producing some other, animations where we have characters that represent and look like you and me.
Right. Well, I don't know. There aren't a whole lot of Japanegroes out there, but I appreciate you thinking about me, though. Nobody else does. And so, obviously Atlanta, because there are a lot of affinity people in that area in terms of creativity, in terms of not just comics, but in terms of entertainment, or is there something else that draws you to the Atlanta area?
Area that's growing. I mean, I'll go on record to say this. I like Tyler Perry's business model, and what he's doing with his movies and things of that sort. I'm not into his whole character thing with the Medea and all that stuff, and I'll go and say that. But I am, understanding and greatly influenced by what he's doing from a business perspective with his, his movie studio. And what I was looking for is to do the same thing in the world of comics.
what he has done is he has established a niche audience that he can count on to come to whatever movie he puts out, and that again has to, goes back to your discussions about branding.
Yes.
He's got a brand that people follow, and that's the Tyler Perry model, or the Tyler Perry model that people should emulate, because the best thing in the world is to grow your audience, to grow your own audience, so that they will follow you, so that they will purchase your products, so that they are always thinking about or talking about what it is you're bringing to the table. So that makes perfect sense. The fact that it's for an industry that is different, like comics, and comics are different from movies.
Yes.
This will be interesting to watch. But knowing you're going to take your ass to school, you're going to learn what you have to learn, and then you're going to go ahead and do it. I mean, seriously, think about you. There are so many people out there who don't do. I mean, do you know how many black businesses try to start without a business plan? Well, most of them.
I know that. I mean, they said you're going to fail in your first 5 businesses, and and I said that wouldn't be me, and then I said, okay, that was me, because like I had the clothing line, we had a whole bunch of other little things that we did, and when I say fail, it fell, but it wasn't a costly failure. One of the things that I've learned from just studying Facebook and some of those other big conglomerate companies is that you want to fail early in the process. You don't want to fail 6 months down the line. You want to fail early in the process, 1 week or whatever the case may be, so you can just work on that piece and not spend a lot of time and resources on those failures. Because instilled in my students what because I had the pre-engineering academy. When you're doing engineering, there's a lot of failure. And failure is a part of the learning. And when you fail, you just want to make sure you minimize your failures and learn from your failures so you can improve upon them. And that's one of the the models that I kind of try to live by and try to model for the company that that I'm building up to be hopefully a global company.
Man, that sounds great. And Thomas Edison, he tried 2,000 times to get the light bulb right.
Yes.
And people said, why didn't you quit? And he said, because I learned 2,000 ways not to do something.
Yep.
And that was just as important about the one time when I learned how to do it right.
Yes.
A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't have that stick-to-itiveness. I'm hopefully I'll be still doing this, at least maybe a few years down the road, and then we get to revisit and see, excuse me, how you have managed to prosecute your plan. Excuse me. So, what do you have plans to go to more conventions, more cons this summer, this year, 2014?
Yes. I plan on going to Stanley Comic Cons in Los Angeles this year in November. Also, New York Comic Con, that's right around the corner in October. Those are the 2 for the rest of this year as far as the cons are concerned. And it's a couple of other smaller cons that I'm looking to do. You got OxyCon in Atlanta, I believe.
Right.
And then there's another con that I was looking into, but, still trying to, figure out what I'm going to do. Because with all of this, like you were saying earlier, it's capital. To be able to
absolutely
to make all these things happen. And then when you're already operating at a loss, you're trying to minimize your expenses and everything. So
right, you don't want to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
May I make this suggestion or this request of you? When you know you're going to be at a certain event, if you would drop that information on the events calendar at the SFS.
Yes.
That way, if people, are in the neighborhood or they're going to be traveling to that particular con, they're going to, build the excitement of finding, finally meeting you. If I ever get this ankle bracelet off, I'm going to get out there and hit the road. I just have to talk to the sheriff. But I mean,
I could get my kids from the story to develop a interference mechanism so it could seem like it's still on. So.
Oh yeah, that's great until they knock on the door. But seriously, keep people in touch with where you're going and what you're doing, and also, obviously let people know when you have new product that comes out, when a new, the next graphic novel is about to hit and things like that, and even where you might have signings and things like that, because, you're in an area, such a high population area, just when you talk about New Jersey and New York, and with the number of people there's quite the critical mass of people who could actually come and see you. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
I'm
just capitalize on all of that, and I actually have a plan to go and just pretty much let people know in Times Square that we're out there. I'm going to have a person dressed up as PB Soldier, and we're going to be in Times Square. We're going to be handing out stickers and flyers. And just to let everyone know, what's coming down the pipeline. We mentioned earlier about the PB Soldier Rebels on Deck skate competitions, and we're hosting two of those. The first one is coming up June 28th in Hoboken, New Jersey. The second one will be in Seattle, Washington. This is going to be the second time we've done it in Seattle, Washington, at Judkins Park. And all of this information is on the website. And then the third one is going to be back in Newark on August 23rd at Jesse Allen Park. And basically, we're going to have a nice skate competition for these up-and-coming amateur skaters. And we're going to have the book. We're going to have our promotional deck as a part of the prize that we're giving away. And we have like a whole slew of entertainment activities for the community to come out and enjoy themselves and have a very safe venue that you can bring your family to. And we got clinics, we have vendors, we have a whole lot of things going on. And that's pretty much it.
As if that wasn't enough. And the other cool thing is that your products are kid-friendly, your comics are kid-friendly, or at least teen-friendly.
Yeah.
They do carry the proper parental advisory on them, so people are not surprised.
Yeah.
And the creativity that you put in it is based upon positive images of people who look like you and me.
Yeah.
And all of that is to the good. And those are the kinds of things that people should think about. There are people out there who go, well, I'm going to write a story that I want to write, and then it's something that, maybe only a select number of people want to look at because they're in, they're in that milieu, or they like that genre. For people who are listening, if you want to take a look at, go to the site. It's www.pbsoldier.com, and you could see all of the current information, a lot of pictures, stuff like that. We're down to a couple minutes. I want to thank you, Naseed. I really enjoyed this. Was this bad for you? Did you think it was going to be?
Actually, it worked out. You prepped me for the 2 hours, and I was like, wow, 2 hours. I don't know. I might run out of things to say, but I'm very appreciative of allowing me to be on your show. And also, I just want to thank you and Black Science Fiction Society for having this medium. I talked to Jarvis about this when I saw him at ECBOC. That we need venues like this, and just being able to give the unheard a voice, because that's what this is really all about, being able to see an artist like myself or yourself, to be able to, be able to hear them and speak to them and, ask questions and touch them where we don't have a lot of medians that are, looking to, interview, someone like me, who's doing certain things for the communities, doing things for, with his product line and stuff, and just to see the vision and getting some insight on that.
Well, and I have looked around, and I think this is the only show like this on the web. And, we have people from Africa listening in, periodically and things like that. So it does have a nice reach, and it's a great opportunity to let people learn who you are. I'm going to have to thank you again. You've been listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. And this is the Genesis Show. It's on every Friday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And the podcasts of every show are available at, well, if you're listening, you know where it is, but it's www.talkshoe.com /TC/127374, or just do a search for Genesis Science Fiction Radio. Thank you very much for being here, man. You made my job very easy. I really appreciate you being here. I'm getting ready to close down the show because Jarvis is doing something else. I have no idea what he's doing, but if he's having fun, he didn't share it with me.
Okay.
But I think I had the better time. I'm sorry,
Jarvis, I said hello and thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank everybody for listening. Tell your friends, tell your family. We appreciate all the people who log on and support the show, all the people who listen to it as a podcast. I'm going to close out the show, and hang on a second, would you, Naseed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. 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 We'll see you next week.